All right, everyone. Welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 12 recap. Better late than never, I guess. This was quite the week. I said I got into it last week. Was pretty excited for what was going to happen, to see what was going to happen this week. And week 12 did not disappoint. Well, I'm disappointed because the Isotopes were unable to essentially knock Hillbillies on PCP out of the playoffs, and they're putting up another 200 points this week. Yeah, they're going to be tough for anybody who has to play them going into the playoffs here. A couple big scores this week. A lot of teams bounced back. We had a lot of 190 scores this week. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them actually, and four of those, and 2 teams over 200. So some scoring was a little bit back on track from where it had been the past few weeks here. But yeah, this week, what can we say? The playoff race, it definitely got more muddled. Let me take a look over here at the standings. Yahoo hasn't updated yet. I thought maybe they would, since the week was essentially over. It's about 11:30 on Wednesday night, just getting home from work. So since the week's pretty much over and there's only one game that was tonight, I thought maybe they would have the standings updated a little bit sooner, but they do not. So we're gonna have two teams with 7 wins, and there'll be 3 teams with 6 wins. Meaning, those 2 teams with 7 wins will be Disco and Possum. The teams who are going to be 6 and 6, Darkwing Jet, Hillbillies on PCP, and Shawshank Athletics making a last-minute push here for a playoff spot. So we could potentially, Disco plays Shawshank next week. Possum plays the Isotopes. Darkwing plays Dub C, and Hillbillies play Saquon It Ain't So. So we could have a whole bunch of teams potentially. Because Disco and Shawshank playing each other, we could potentially have 5 teams all with 7 wins after week 13. That was 5. And that leaves only 3 of those teams can get playoff spots. 2 of them would be out. The teams would be Disco, Possum, Darkwing, Hillbillies, and Shawshank. Shawshank, your point total is down there. You're behind. In that scenario, Hillbillies would definitely make a jump. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We won't know, I think, for sure, who takes those last couple playoff spots until, I don't think that Shawshank or Darkwing could take Disco's spot from him. Hillbillies could. If they get to 7 and 6 and Disco loses next week. So all sorts of things that could go on. The probabilities of who's going to actually get in with those 3 spots, I'm not even exactly sure. I don't think, like I started to say before, I'm not sure we will know exactly who those last 3 playoff spots are until the end of Week 13's games, which I believe are going an extra day next week because of all the things that got moved around this week. And from this week, thanks to the Isotopes going down, Yinzer Jags going down, and Gags to Riches getting a victory, and having the big score this week, gaining ground on point-wise on those teams above him. From Gags to Riches, actually could sneak in here and take the number 1 seed next week if he can win, and Yinzer Jags or the Isotopes drop there and fall behind in overall points here. So those matchups next week are going to be interesting to watch. So we could have those top 3 and the bottom 3. We could have a significant shuffle there on both ends of the standings here. So I think a couple weeks ago I said I think we're going to end up kind of, the playoff race was going to kind of go end with a whimper, but it's actually going out with a bang here and getting pretty interesting. And don't want to say we've had upsets these past few weeks, really, because most teams are definitely capable of knocking each other off from week to week, and that's kind of exactly what's happened. I think some teams that we thought maybe were gonna just kind of fall by the wayside have stepped up and knocked some people off. So, and it's just made things even messier here heading for the playoffs. So, yeah, well, I guess that's enough, mostly enough, talking about the this week and the week, and actually getting into a little bit of the standings in the week ahead. Here at the beginning, we'll cut back into it a little bit at the end here, but let's get into the reason we are here. The Week 12 recap. And as always, we start with the defending champion from Gags to Riches. He goes off this week for 259.3 points, thanks to 65.9 from Tyreek Hill. Taking down Disco, who I think has one of his, if not his best performance of the year, right up there, 191.3. So unfortunately, a big week for Disco, but he ran into the buzzsaw that was Gags to Riches this week. Some questions came up as to Tyreek Hill's 62.9, 65, thanks to the long touchdown bonus. I would have to actually go back and look and see, because I'm going to say if that's not the highest non-quarterback score we've ever had, the only one that could be higher was the Jamal Charles game a couple years ago, where he had 4 or 5 touchdowns, a ton of receiving yards. I would have to go back. I don't know. We have to look back because the long touchdown bonuses, Yahoo does not account for those. I'd have to go back and see what that is, but I don't think that there are any. I think there have been a couple scores probably close to that. Just trying to recall. I was trying to think about it over the past couple days and didn't get a chance to actually go into onto the internet here and look it up to see yet. As of right in this very moment that I'm speaking to you all, but I will do that hopefully again after this and figure it out. But the only thing that jumps out right away would be the Jamal Charles game. The score, if not pretty close, I want to say they're very close, 65.9. I don't know if, again, this was a once-in-a-lifetime, probably, performance from Tyreek Hill this week. So, in this matchup, what I was looking forward to seeing happen was Gags to Riches going up with his Tyreek and Kelsey, going up against Disco with his Patrick Mahomes. And suffice to say, let's see, Patrick Mahomes did score 8. With that, he had also a long touchdown bonus, so he had 80.9. of Disco's 191. Fortunately for him, because a lot of single-digit scores the rest of the way down Disco's lineup, once again being carried by Patrick Mahomes. Let's take a look at Gags to Riches. He has Deshaun Watson go for 56.3, despite only 17 completions. And, of course, he's lost Will Fuller for the rest of the year, so we will see how that impacts him going forward. His receivers, Mike Evans, only 3 catches, but 2 of them were touchdowns, 20 points. Again, Tyreek, 65.9. Cole Beasley throws a touchdown pass, 10.5. Duke Johnson, 17 points. David Montgomery, 28.3. Kelsey, 16.2 in the flex. Darius Slayton, 0. Sly, your kicker, goes for about 7.5. And the New York Giants defense got kind of lucked out there. I don't know if you picked them up before or after the Burrow injury, but they did pretty well. Yahoo says 17, but you are bumped up about 20-some points. So their score must have been in the 30s, mid-30s there for the New York Giants defense. So yeah, pretty much everything except for Slayton that could have gone right for Gags went right this week. Looking at his bench here, if he starts Ronald Jones in the flex instead of Darius Slayton, that's an extra 17 points, which would mean Gags would have set the single week record point total because, let's see, 17.3, basically 260, plus 17 would be 277, and that would be more than the 275, which currently stands. So, wasn't really expecting this, but Jimmy Huber, I know you're not watching or listening, but somewhere you're breathing a sigh of relief that your record still stands, even though it has been tested a couple of times this season. As for Disco, again, Patrick Mahomes, 80.9. Chris Godwin goes for 17.7. Marquise Brown has a 70-yard touchdown. Pretty much all his production from that game. Another long touchdown bonus gets you 21.5. But then, unfortunately, we've got Mike Williams, 5.5. Zeke, only 3. Jordan Wilkins, 8.5. Waller, 6.5. Jacobs, in the flex there, 5.5. And your kicker, Carlson, 4.5. So a slew of single-digit scores there. And then the bottom of your buns, the the Washington football team defense here. Yahoo says 22, but based on the bump, it actually must have been closer to 40 or so. And a good game for them against Dallas. I mean, either somebody was going to have a good game, Zeke or Dallas defense, and you got Zeke or Washington defense. It was Washington defense, but I think you'll take the 40-some points from them and swallow your pride and accept the 3 points from Zeke there. So, but unfortunately, a good performance overall from Disco based on his performance over the course of the season. Again, unfortunately, you just ran into a game of his life for Tyreek Hill, and that was probably the biggest factor in this matchup here. So, will these two teams meet up in the playoffs? I don't know. It's very possible at some point. And if I am Disco, I would be pretty nervous going forward because of what we saw here with the potential of Hill and Kelsey basically canceling out Mahomes here. You're going to need the rest of your team to step up and put up better scores in the playoffs here if you're going to have a chance of taking a big step forward. But we've also got, said Deshaun Watson here, so losing his top receiver this of the season, Will Fuller. So he's got Cooks. Who knows what else he's going to do? That might put a dent in his production going forward. He's going to need some people to step up. Yet to be determined who those players are going to be. So if there is a bit of a weakness here going forward for Gags to Riches, that might be, said Deshaun Watson might be taking a bit of a hit going forward here. So we will see how that plays out as we approach the playoffs here. So, all right. With that victory, Gags to Riches has pretty much stayed in third for quite a while now, hovering right in that spot here. He is now 7-4 with the win, and Disco with the loss. He is 7 and I stand corrected here because Yahoo is not showing me the right stuff here yet, so I apologize for that. Gags, he moves to 8-4 is what I should say. Sorry, going back and forth here. On Yahoo, Gags moves to 8-4, while Disco drops to 7-5. All right, this matchup, we'll do the two matchups that came down to Wednesday night. Darkwing Jet versus Saquon It Ain't So. Darkwing Jet sitting here at 6-5, Saquon at 3-8. And going into Wednesday, Darkwing Jet had about, let me check my notes here. It was about 17.2, I want to say, or 17.15, something like that. Lead over Saquon It Ain't So. Saquon only had left Juju Smith-Schuster. And in this matchup, that Darkwing Jet, he needed this one to get himself win number 7 and have a much better shot of making the playoffs with I think who he plays next week, I can't remember already. Kevin Bean, Dub C Hooligans next week. That's going to be a tough matchup because Dub C not doing too bad. So suffice to say, Darkwing Jet, you needed this one. But, so Juju needed 17.2. He gets Saquon It Ain't So 17.7 and knocks off Darkwing Jet. Final score, 143.35 to Darkwing's 142.8. For Saquon, we have Andy Dalton go for 38.5. Juju 17.7. Devontae Parker 19.9. Corey Davis an even 10. Running backs Gallman 18.1. Henderson Jr. 2 points. Jonnu Smith, your tight end, actually goes for 0. Jarvis Landry, big factor here in this matchup in the flex. He goes for 28.3. Lutz, your kicker, goes for about 8.5, 9 points. And then the Indianapolis Colts defense, Yahoo says 1, and that was actually the correct score. 1 point from your defense. This one was definitely winnable for Darkwing Jet, but he could not pull it out in his time of need. He has Cam Newton at quarterback this week. Didn't play Bridgewater, didn't play Carson Wentz. And Cam Newton, in what should have been a good matchup, he goes for 11.8. Ouch. That hurts, especially in a matchup where you ended up losing by half a point. DJ Moore only, I'm not sure. I wouldn't say only, but I'm looking at Darkwing Jets lineup here, and he's got some Qs next to these first couple players here. Cam and then DJ Moore, 10.1. Robert Woods, 15.8. Gallup, 10.1. Kenyon Drake, 2 touchdowns, 24.5 points. Singletary, 11.2. Gesicki, a touchdown on 2 catches there, 11.5. Gage in the flex here, 6.5. Myers, your kicker, goes for about 13. And the Houston Texans defense, actually pretty good play. I don't know. I know the Rams defense did pretty good, but they lost the game. Let's see. Yahoo says 22, and you're bumped up about 6 points. So the actual score must have been about 28. Not sure exactly what the Rams' score would have been. They did lose, but Yahoo says 23. They played San Francisco. I don't know how the yardage was there, but I can't. I want to say Houston was probably the better play out of the two. Trying to figure out which one. If you would have gone with your Rams defense, as you usually do this year, if that would have affected the outcome of this matchup. But I want to say Houston actually ended up being the better play. They both scored touchdowns, I see. But yeah, you played Cam Newton, even though you've been rolling with Bridgewater most of the year, and they said he was healthy coming back here. But maybe the expectation was that Patriots Cardinals game would be more of a shootout than it was, and ended up being kind of a dud here for a lot of people who had fantasy players in that game. Really, well, except for Kenyon Drake. But yeah, what can you say about this matchup other than Darkwing Jet? You got crapped on by Cam Newton here, and he let you down in the biggest of ways, in the biggest of moments. All you needed was 13 points from your quarterback, and you couldn't get it this week. Not often you have to say something like that here. But Darkwing Jet, with that loss, he drops to 6-6. Not sure what his position will be. So yeah, Gags stays in third. Disco, not sure. Said the standings haven't been updated. Usually they are by the time I'm doing this. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Based on the point totals here, we'll see how things shake out. But by the time you have heard this or seen this, you'll already know, I'm sure. And Saquon at 8. So with that victory, he will move up to 4-8. And then the other matchup we were watching on Wednesday night, the Springfield Isotopes going up against the Hillbillies on PCP. Hillbillies were down about 70 points going in, with Roethlisberger, Claypool, and the Steelers defense still to play, while the Isotopes had Deontay Johnson. And the Steelers defense, they got 39, I think, and Roethlisberger went for 50. So there's 89. That's covering your total. Said basically what you wished for was what you got. Claypool and Johnson essentially canceling each other out, and Roethlisberger and the Steelers defense covering the 70-point margin that you needed there to get the victory. Final score, 211.2 to 192.85. So Roethlisberger goes for 50.2, DK Metcalf 30.7, Keenan Allen 16, Chase Claypool 11.2, Dalvin Cook 10.2, Chubb 29.5, Hawkinson just under 14, Brian Hill 5.5, Prater your kicker about 4.5, and then again the Steelers defense goes for 39 points against basically the backup scrub offense of the Ravens here. 2 turnovers right off the bat, including a pick 6 there, and kind of knew I was screwed going forward. Once 5 minutes into the game, said you've got 12 points just from turnovers and a touchdown there. So, yeah. Pretty much when I think Hayden ran that interception back, he was approaching the goal line, and I was like, tackle him. God, tackle him. And nobody tackled him. Like, oh, God, come on. And that pretty much set the tone for the game, for the rest of that game. So, yeah, if things go differently, if Baltimore has their regular roster, does this matchup still go this way? You ended up winning by 11 and 7, 18 points. It's hard to say. 39, that means does the Steelers D get closer to 20? Don't know. Probably, because you got significant points there from not many first day. Not very often somebody gets 6 points from first downs allowed. You got that, the pick six, low passing yard total here, but that's just how it was this week. The matchup goes how it goes. I can sit here and complain that I only lost because of the circumstances around this the Baltimore Ravens and COVID this week. But hey, we play with who shows up, and this unfortunately for these Isotopes went up against Hillbillies in a matchup that we pretty much expected to be a bloodbath, and that's what you got in a time that you needed it to keep your playoff hopes alive here. Certainly would have liked to bounce you out, but not able to do it. Ice House said 192.85. Aaron Rodgers goes for just under 49. Hopkins only 10.5. Will Fuller on his farewell performance goes for 38.1. Deontay, again, 12.5. Alvin Kamara, 6.2. It brings me great pain not watching what Kamara does. Taysom Hill has completely torpedoed the value of Alvin Kamara. Drew Brees cannot come back soon enough. Thank God that maybe he'll be back in week 15 when hopefully the Topes get a bye week, and basically week 13 doesn't matter too much. It matters. Would like to get that win, knock off Possum, maybe give him some trouble there in terms of making the playoffs, because Derrick Henry has a fantastic playoff schedule going forward, which I'm sure most people know. But yeah, personally, sitting here in the position of the Isotopes, again, Drew Brees cannot come back fast enough to get Kamara just out of this, because Taysom Hill, you're a guy. I don't think he's thrown a touchdown pass. He's played quarterback for 2 games. He hogs the goal line carries. He runs. He throws it to Michael Thomas and runs it in. He throws it to Michael Thomas, or he runs it himself. That's pretty much been their offense these past couple weeks, and it is extremely frustrating. I will tell you that. Ugh, every time you see me go like this, you know I'm frustrated. All right, Aaron Jones, only 10 points. Kind of disappointing after a strong start here for him. Gronk, 16.5. Nyheim Hines, 17.5. Suck up, about 5.5. And then the Seahawks defense goes for, I believe the score was 27. Yahoo says 15, but with the bump there, yeah, it was 27 here. So 192, pretty good score, but when you go up against a 200-pointer, that's not going to get it done. Even though, let's see, said the 200 would have lost to Shawshank here. Again, but said several people had 190s this week. A score that is usually going to get you a win, but 2 of us who did it this week did not get victories here. So that's just the way it goes in the fantasy football, the up and down world, week to week world of fantasy football here. So in Tonto's Demise. All right, so with that victory, Hillbillies on PCP started 0-4, is now 6-6, and he is knocking on the door, if not already. He will be storming his way into the playoffs here. And then the Isotopes, they will drop to 9-3 after that 7-0 start. All right, let's see. We did that. Dub C Hooligans versus Mighty Midgets. A matchup that didn't really mean anything because Mighty Midgets are out. Dub C Hooligans, you have the best record you could have is 6-7, and I don't think there's any chance that that any 6-7s are going to make the playoffs this year. And if one would, I don't think it would be you. It would probably have been Hillbillies on PCP, but yeah, both of these teams essentially playing for pride at this moment here in this matchup here. And Dub C Hooligans get the victory 190.7 to 136.45. So I stand corrected here. That was another 190. So 1, 2, yeah, okay. I was right. 1, 2, 3, 4 teams. I'm sorry. Didn't mean, I thought maybe I was dismissing Kevin, the Dub C Hooligans score there, but no, we were good. Mighty Midgets, 136.45. Don't know if I can't remember. Forgotten if I said that, but here. So Dub C, he has Russell Wilson, 38.5. Robbie Anderson, 19.5. Curtis Samuel, 12.5. Allen Robinson, 27.5. James Robinson, just under 30. Edwards-Helaire, only 5. Jordan Reed, just under 4. Mike Davis in the flex, 11 points. Young-Ho Koo actually goes for about 23, I believe. He had 3, 4 field goals, a bunch of PATs, and I think with all the fractional points, it ended up actually being like 3 extra points for Koo there. So yeah, big one from him this week. Again, perhaps your MVP of this year. And the Patriots defense goes for, Yahoo says 11. The actual score must have been about 20. Enough to get past the Mighty Midgets here, who have been on a slide pretty much all season long. Getting the short end of the stick more often than not, unfortunately, in terms of injuries and underperformance here. Philip Rivers plugged him in this week instead of Tom Brady. Actually, Brady had 10 more points, but it did not make a difference in the matchup here. Rivers goes for 43.75. Brandon Cooks, 13.5. I'm sure there are people who wish that they could trade for him right now. Tyler Boyd, 4.5. Aguilar, 10.5. Miles Sanders, 6.2. Jamal Williams, 13.5. Godert, 20.5. CD Lamb in the flex, 7.1. Boswell, your kicker, goes for about 4.5, 5 points. And the Minnesota Vikings defense, I believe the actual score on Yahoo was correct. 12 here. So, yeah, unfortunately for Mighty Midgets, the underperformance, the frustration continues. Only 136 points this week, while Dub C gets 190. Got to feel at least you'll be winding down the season here, feeling good about yourself. Dub C putting up some good scores. Well, next week you will have a chance to, on your way out the door, perhaps take Darkwing Jet out the playoff door with you here. So we will see what happens next week. All right, then we had Shawshank Athletics making a sneaky comeback, trying to get weasel his way into a playoff spot after making some trades, saying he was already playing for next season, kind of giving up on his year. He went up against Ed Logger, gets the victory this week, 193.4 to 147.55, and he's going to move up to also being 6-6 and have a chance to get win number 7, and who knows, maybe a playoff spot if all the things that he need to happen fall his way here. So, Shawshank Athletics, Herbert, another 52.5 point score. He's been solid, Money in the Bank, pretty much for at least 50, pretty much every single week here for you. Perhaps a wise investment there many weeks ago. Receivers, A.J. Brown goes for, he had a long touchdown, so he was actually 28.8. Rieger, 4.1, and Jefferson, who you traded for 2 touchdowns from him, 26 points. Fournette and McKissick each go for about 5. Jimmy Graham, 6.2. Debo goes for 24.5 in the flex there. Too little, too late, unfortunately. Pretty much a lost season for Debo Samuel. More games missed than played so far this year, but maybe he will have a good stretch run here and get people excited for him going into next season. We'll see who goes there. Zane Gonzalez, your kicker, goes for about 6 or 7. And then the Miami Dolphins defense, juicy matchup against the New York Jets. Yahoo says 18, but based on your bump up there, the actual score must have been closer to about, I want to say in the 30s, maybe close to 40, because you're bumped up about, let's see, I'm going to say about 18 points. So their score was in the upper 30s. I'm not exactly certain. I'm going to guess and say 36, somewhere in that range here for the Dolphins defense here. So solid buns, as always, for Shawshank. And then Jefferson and A.J. Brown. And 25 points each from Brown, Jefferson, and Debo. So get you the victory here this week over Ed Logger, playing for Pride here for a few weeks, unfortunately for a few weeks now. Derek Carr, his quarterback, goes for 23.5. Michael Thomas, 9 points. Cooper Kupp, 6. Sterling Shepard, just under 14. Antonio Gibson, he actually went off on Thanksgiving for just under 40 points, which actually at the time I thought, oh man, that is pretty much going to seal the playoff deal here for Shawshank, the nail in his coffin, so to say. With that said, that 40-point score, if that was a preview of things to come for Ed Logger's team, he was going to perhaps go out with a bang these past few weeks and knock some people off here. Mike said he got Michael Thomas, Cooper Kupp, Kareem Hunt, even Gio Bernard, he as the main running back there for Cincinnati still. Carr, a good matchup. You would think a good matchup against the Atlanta defense there. Said only, did we finish? Hunt 6.2, Austin Hooper 9.3, Gio Bernard 7, McManus 5.5, and then the Packers defense about 27, I'm going to say. But yeah, this matchup looked like it was going to go definitely in favor of Ed Logger, said after that Thursday performance. But you got players who could definitely put up points here, said Carr, Michael Thomas, Cooper Kupp, Kareem Hunt, those guys. All single-digit scores from those guys. That hurts. You lost by 46 points here. Really, realistically, you add about 20 to Carr. That's reasonable. Michael Thomas and Cooper Kupp. Between those two, you add about 15 points. Kareem Hunt maybe scores a touchdown. Against Jacksonville, too. I probably expected a lot better from him there in that spot. So, but yeah, it is what it is. So unfortunately, Ed Logger, with that loss, you will drop to 4-8, while Shawshank Athletics will move up to 6-6, and we will see where they are in the standings once Yahoo does its job here. Let me see if I can refresh and if we got any update yet. Nope, not yet. All right, and then the last matchup, Yinzer Jags versus Possum Magic. Yinzer Jags was trying to get win number 9, and if he had gotten this win and the Isotopes losing, Yinzer Jags would have reclaimed first place, and perhaps given Possum Magic a difficult time going forward in terms of trying to make the playoffs next week. And said Possum Magic, he needed to win at least one of these last two games. Said even though he ends up the last 2 weeks, he is playing the top two teams, Isotopes and Yinzer Jags. So he needed to get at least one of these. Wasn't going to be easy, but he actually ends up pulling it out this week. Mostly thanks to Derrick Henry, 162.75 to 148.4, for Yinzer Jags. I was going to say that even though the Isotopes and Yinzer Jags are the 1 and 2 teams in the standings right now, gotta feel like they have peaked and are kind of limping into the playoffs here. Teams below are surging. Course of the season, well, I mean, you're getting Eckler back, but Amari Cooper he actually hasn't been a huge drop off for Amari Cooper. Mostert's back, so injury with each team has had injury problems and some things going on with Yinzer Jags and the Isotopes. Maybe I'll get through this matchup, then we'll get back to that. And because who should we be talking about in this matchup? Not the Yinzer Jags, not the Isotopes. It's you, Possum Magic. We should be talking about you because you got the victory here. Even though I don't think any of us thought you were going to get it after Thanksgiving's the performance on Thursday from several of your players here. Alex Smith goes for 27.5. Tyler Lockett only 5.3. Scary Terry 16.2. Diggs 11. The big one here was obviously Derrick Henry. He goes for 41.5. 178 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, a couple catches. Chris Carson comes back, gets you a touchdown, goes for 14. Hayden Hurst, 8.8. Marvin Jones, 10.8 in the flex here. Fairbairn goes for about 9. And then the Kansas City Chiefs defense, Yahoo says 10. Actual score must have been about 19, I'm going to guess, for the Chiefs defense here. But it was enough to get you past, even though I'm sure your quarterback performance made you extremely pessimistic about this matchup, and I think a lot of people who were watching probably were after getting 28 points from your quarterback. But fortunately for you, Kyler Murray barely tops that. He only goes for 31.5 against New England there. Devontae Adams, 18.1. Amari Cooper, 23.2. Sammy Watkins in there since no Thielen this week. COVID stuff going on with him. 7.8. Eckler coming back. He has 11 catches, gets you 24 points. Mostert comes back, gets a touchdown, but that's most of his production. He gets 10.3. Tonyan, tight end, played him this week over Ebron because he didn't trust Ebron. Ended up being a decent play, mostly thanks to his touchdown. 17.7. Michael Pittman in the flex here after having a big week before. He only gets you 5 points this week. Blankenship, only 2 kicks, only 2 PATs. No field goals for your big guy here, Rodrigo. And then perhaps the biggest surprise was the Cleveland Browns defense giving up 25 points, lots of yards to the Jacksonville Jaguars only a week after, I think, when it was turnover city against the Steelers defense there. I thought Cleveland would do much better. Yahoo says 3. I believe the actual score was 9. So, yeah. In a matchup here where you lost by, 15 points. Said your kicker, no field goals, some points there. Said your defense, only 9. Probably expected more from that. And of course, if Thielen plays, perhaps he does his usual Thielen things. And Kyler Murray, I want to say this was his lowest performance of the year. Yes, it was. So, all the pieces that needed to fall into place this week for Boston Magic to get a win number 7, and have a much better chance of making his way into the playoffs here, getting the victory over Yinzer Jags, who will drop to 8-4, while Boston Magic will be set 7-5. So yeah, those are all the matchups from week 12 here, going into week 13 as we see what happens with the playoff standings. Already got into it a little bit. Taking a look here, a peek ahead at week 13. We'll have Possum trying to get. Said he'll have 7 wins. He will probably be trying to get number 8, which would definitely, I would think, solidify him a playoff spot here, going against the Isotopes, who will be trying to hold on to the 1 seed and could potentially drop all the way down to 3. And after kind of cruising along all season, could at the last second drop out of having a bye week here. So we will see what happens. Already mentioned, kind of hoping to get that because Alvin Kamara would really like to not have to play in week 14, just because I know Drew Brees won't definitely not be back by then. And it's really a problem going forward with Kamara until Drew Brees comes back. It's going to be hard to put him into the starting lineup unless Taysom Hill really turn. I mean, we've seen 2 games. They're playing Atlanta again. They played them 2 weeks ago, and 2 games. How many samples do we need to get until we see that Taysom Hill just is going to basically ignore Kamara? I think they said Kamara was even playing behind Latavius Murray in that game the other day. And I know Kamara has kind of missed some practice time with a nagging foot injury, so maybe New Orleans was kind of giving him a break this past week in a game where they should essentially win because as everyone knows, Denver really had no quarterback, no actual quarterback. So I would imagine the Saints were expecting to pretty easily win there, so maybe they were taking it easy with Kamara to get him healthy going forward as they head towards the playoffs here. So, all right, then we have Hillbillies, who will try to get win number 7, going against Saquon It Ain't So, who just upset Darkwing Jet. Projections currently heavily favoring Hillbillies, so not looking good here for that upset, which I think a lot of us would like to see, and not get win number 7. But here, hey, anything can happen. Dub C versus Darkwing again. Darkwing Jet, I think he's got some bye week issues. No Carolina Panthers this week, so he'll have to start. He'll have to hope. I don't know if he'll have Cam Newton or Carson Wentz, hoping one of them can save his season, because he's going to be going up against Dub C, who is currently projected to win by 50, but I would imagine that's because of Darkwing's bye week lineup here, problems here. So Disco versus Shawshank. I think Disco, he'll try to get win number 8, while Shawshank will try to get number 7, and perhaps squeak his way into a playoff spot here. So if Shawshank loses, that would definitely, I think, knock him out. So should be an interesting one to see. Ed Logger versus Yinzer Jags. Yinzer Jags, they'll still be in second place, I believe, after this week's matchups. But Ed Logger will be looking to knock him off, while Yinzer Jags will be looking to get a victory for himself and hope that maybe the Isotopes will fall and jump up into first place regular season championship here. And then speaking of regular season championship, another guy looking forward to maybe stealing that away at the last minute here from the Isotopes, Gags to Riches. He'll be going up against the Mighty Midgets. So some good matchups here, on paper at least, for Yinzer Jags, and from Gags to Riches. I would say the easiest of the three matchups, Isotopes versus Possum there, being the toughest of the matchups as they try to hold on to that top spot. So, yeah, I don't know if we will have a podcast this week coming up, if everybody's still got problems going on. Holidays are over, but we'll see with COVID stuff. I know if Detling has some quarantine things going on, isolation. I don't know if that's still going on or not. It's been a while. The podcast has been away for a while. No, Josh has been completely MIA since about week 3 with Inside the Computer. Extremely disappointed, crestfallen, if you will, over Josh and the Inside the Computer segments there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let's see. Yeah, all of these matchups will have some sort of playoff implication this week. So hopefully we get a podcast because they're all going to be said. Every matchup has some sort of playoff implication. So it'll be interesting to see what they think and what they think things are going to play, how they think things are going to play out, and then how things will maybe end up actually shaking out here. So yeah, like I said earlier on in the beginning, we could have said you take those top 3 teams, you take those bottom 3 teams, and we could very easily have a shake-up on the bottom and a shake-up at the top and a shake-up on the bottom here, and see who ends up here. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting week to see what happens here. Another nerve-wracking week for me, and so we'll see what happens. But again, started to get into this when I was talking about Yinzer Jags and Possum's matchup there. This season is kind of reminding me of, I think, 2 years ago, whenever I had Patrick Mahomes really going off and basically cruising through the regular season, but slowly but surely had pieces of my team get chipped away at, and it's kind of through injuries and just circumstances going on, and it's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm really uncomfortable heading forward here. I'm even though I said Isopes have been near the top of the standings most of the season, and I am definitely pessimistic about going here forward into the playoffs because, said again, Fuller's now gone for the rest of the year. Kamara, he's been basically made worthless for essentially since Taysom Hill has taken over. Let's see. T. Higgins is like a potential, not even a potential keeper here, or another wide receiver if necessary. His value has essentially also been torpedoed by the loss of Burrow. So yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones has been extremely disappointing. It's been frustrating watching some of their games and just how much playing time they're giving Jamal Williams. Hopkins has been kind of disappointing more often than not these past few weeks. So yeah, going forward here, just a lot of things. Chipping away pieces of my team. Kind of hoping nobody gets hurt because my receiver core losing Fuller and Higgins being practically worthless. That's getting trimmed down, and Jones and Kamara. Not optimistic about my hopes here in any playoff run, but we will see what happens. As always, you just got to get in, and anything can happen. there's always a team, or if not more than one, the two teams who usually get the two teams who get bye weeks. Almost always, at least one of them gets knocked off and does not make it to the Tonto Bowl. Let me see if I don't know if I talked about it in the weeks past, but I was talking about it a little bit with Josh. Thought maybe he would do an episode getting into like these where the seeds are for Tonto Bowls, and so I don't know if I talked about it at all before, but I'll just do it here real quick since we're talking about playoffs and seedings here in the past. So I've got here on my notes that I went through and was looking at one time. Just a little interesting tidbit here for you guys to think about as we head into the playoffs and see where your playoff seed is going to be here. So here are the results going all the way back through to 2010. Every year, either a 1 or 2 seed does make it to the championship, but the only year that 1 and 2 both made it to the Tonto Bowl was 2011. So only once in the last 10 years have both bye week teams made it to the Tonto Bowl. One of them is most likely going to get, if not both, will get, one of them is going to get knocked off in the second round there after their bye week. Who's it going to be? Who's going to have a bye? Nobody knows. But anyway, let's take a look at the seedings for our Tonto Bowls going back to 2010. 2010, it was 2 versus 5, 5 being the winner. 2011, 1 versus 2, 1 being the winner. 2012, it was 1 versus 6, 6 being the winner. 2013, 5 versus 6, 6 being the winner again. 2014, it was 2 versus 6, 2 getting the win. 2015, 2 versus 5, 5 getting the win. 2016, 1 versus 3, 1 getting the win. 2017, it was 2 versus 5, 5 getting the win. 2018, it was 1 versus 4, 4 getting the win. And 2019, 2 versus 4, 4 getting the win again. So the number 4 seed is on a 2-year Tonto Bowl win streak. So who could end up with the number 4 seed? Perhaps Possum, perhaps Disco. I don't think Shawshank, I don't think Hillbillies could climb all the way up to 4. But yeah, 4 is on a run. So in the last, 6 years, the number 1 seed has gone to the Tonto Bowl 4 times. The number 2 seed has gone there 6 times. The number 3 seed, you don't want to be the 3 seed, gags, because in the last 10 years, the number 3 seed has only gone to the Tonto Bowl 1 time. Number 4 seed has only gone actually 2 times, and which would be the last 2 years, and they've gone all the way. The number 5 seed has gone to the Tonto Bowl 4 times, and the number 6 seed has gone 3 times, winning twice. So, all right. Basically going in, if history is any kind of factor here in determining of where you want to be in playoff seedings, you don't want to be number 3 because history has not been kind to you. You want to be number 2. Well, you want to be 1, 2, or 5, ideally here. So, yeah, those are the numbers. If you want to, I can post them somewhere, maybe in a Line app or something. If you want to actually get, you can go through what I said, write it down, get an idea of it, or do the research yourself, or I could post it if anyone is interested in hearing it again or actually having it written down so they can look at it here. So, but just a little interesting thing that I thought here. Maybe I'll get into it again because after next week, obviously we'll be recapping Week 13, and we will know what all the exact playoff seedings will be here. So maybe we will just revisit it at the end of next week here. So, all right, everyone, another great week in the books and some important matchups here going forward. These last 2 weeks have actually been pretty entertaining and a lot of things going on in terms of these standings here. So pretty interesting stuff to see what happens here. All right, everyone. Once again, thanks for listening or watching or whatever it is you do. No injuries in Week 13. The final week of the regular season has gone by so fast, as it always seems to do. May all of your players meet or exceed expectations, no injuries, and we conclude another successful and exciting season, regular season, of Tonto's Demise with an exciting plateful of matchups here going into Week 13. So, yeah, this last week will be fun to watch to see how things shake up, who gets in, who gets out, who gets the bye weeks, who doesn't, and yeah, where the seedings fall into place, and yeah, all sorts of things. So, all right. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we will see you again next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.